Live from Studio G in the heart of America, I'm Steve Gruber. Thank you for being here today. We've got a lot to talk about. I'm saying the things that you can't say in polite company. Fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom and defending this great nation every single day. This is the Steve Gruber Show, and here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, if you have a window seat, even in economy, you can soon get priority boarding on your airplane, as one major airline looks at the idea that it will speed up the process of loading the planes, put the people in the windows in first, you see. Number two, conservative Republican Jim Jordan is 0 for 2 and getting 217 votes to become the next Speaker of the House. Doesn't look like it's going to get any better. He's not giving up yet. A third vote coming today, it sounds like. We'll see if he gets through. And number three, President Joe Biden back in the country after a very short trip to Israel. The trip was cut short after a bomb hit a hospital in Gaza, and meetings with Jordan and the Palestinians were flat out canceled. What actually happened at the hospital continues to be an ongoing and emotional argument in the news, in government, and on social media, of course. But the president made it clear. He believes, and the United States asserts, that it was a terrorist missile fired inside of Gaza that malfunctioned, roared back to earth, hitting the hospital. The number of people killed is also a source of much debate. Originally, there were more than 500 people that we were told were killed in the explosion, but now that's not certain either. In fact, many reports now claim the main hospital isn't intact and the parking lot was actually hit, meaning it's almost impossible for that many people to have been killed. But here is the problem: the fog of war. And the fog of war clouded even more by social media. What's true? What's not? What's happening? Hell, it's hard to figure out sometimes. President Biden, by the way, always dangerous on the world stage, as I will explain more in a minute, because President Biden actually took about 3 or 4 questions on Air Force One, a rarity to say the least, and he said Israel did not bomb the hospital in Gaza. Here's this first. Listen.
At the hospital, sir, people all over the region are upset about the hospital and don't necessarily believe you or the Israelis that they didn't have anything to do with it. Do you have a message to the people in the streets right now?
Well, I can understand why in this circumstance they wouldn't believe. I can understand that. But I would not, you notice I don't say things like that unless I have faith in the source from which I've gotten them. Our Defense Department says it's highly unlikely that it was Israelis would have a different footprint, and they've intercepted some anyway. So that's why, if you notice, I didn't say it first. I wanted to make sure that I knew. And look, and I'm not suggesting that Hamas deliberately did it either. It's that old thing, got to learn how to shoot straight.
Got to know how to shoot straight. Yeah, okay. When asked if he believes Israel is fighting this war within accepted boundaries of conflict, Biden, well, he ended the conversation right there and walked out. But it is more than he usually answers. In fact, it was borderline miraculous that he did it at all. Now, we're going to talk about his ramblings a bit later, too. Earlier in the day, he was having a lot more trouble navigating a conversation where he had to rely on note cards because there wasn't a teleprompter available, it seems. So Joe had some trouble. Another international trip and another gaffe from senile Joe Biden. It's embarrassing and it's dangerous, and you need to see it. Here it is.
You know, years ago I asked the Secretary of State when he and I were working in the Senate to write something for him, and he said, he wrote a line that I think is appropriate. He said, it's not, we lead, not just, well, I won't go into it, I'll wait later. Taking too much time.
Yeah, he has no idea. He lost his train of thought, which is a short train on a small track, got lost. And talking about the Secretary of State when they were in the Senate together. Anthony Blinken was never in the Senate with Joe Biden. Anthony Blinken was a guy labeled as a danger to America by John McCain and others. What a disaster. The focus for most of the day around the world, as I mentioned, was what really happened to the hospital in Gaza. A Christian hospital, we're told, and emotions are certainly running high on all sides. And the outspoken anti-Semites on Capitol Hill did not hold back in the verbal attacks on the Jewish state. And to be honest, it's not like they care too much about the truth anyway. They have a political agenda they are pursuing, always. But to be honest, that seems to be true from Kyiv to Tel Aviv, and every point in between these days, doesn't it? But the truth doesn't matter to too many of the politicians and the people in the media. And when some politicians lie, the media, it just cranks up the volume. People like Rashida Tlaib, an open anti-Semite and a fraud. She's screaming at Joe Biden with palpable anger, always. Listen to this.
Continue to watch people think it's okay to bomb a hospital with children. You know what's so hard sometimes is watching those videos and the people telling the kids don't cry and like let them cry. And they're shaking, and somebody, you know this, they keep telling them not to cry in Arabic. They can cry, I can cry, we all can cry. If we're not crying, something is wrong. And so I'm telling you right now, President Biden, not all America's with you on this one. And you need to wake up and understand that. We are literally watching people commit genocide and killing a vast majority just like this. And we still stand by and say nothing. We will remember this. But all of you, you need to know, I swear to God, Wahyat Allah, you are on the right side of history. You are. You're doing everything possible to save lives. What is wrong with that? Stop it with trying to politicize it.
I wanted to see that entire exchange. You're on the right side of history by slaughtering unarmed civilians at a music festival, slaughtering the old and the infirm in their wheelchairs in their homes, children murdered as well, 1,300 plus civilians murdered by Hamas. You're on the right side of history? Hardly. This, of course, as Tlaib made clear, puts her on opposite sides with President Biden right now and the Democrat Party, many of whom are frequently appalled by her behavior, her outbursts, her hateful comments about Jews in Israel. Anti-Semitic tropes often repeated by her fellow squad members like Ilhan Omar and AOC. And this is creating a rift for Democrats who usually carry the Jewish vote almost completely. But this kind of divide could change that in the future. How could it not? And in some states like New York or New Jersey, that could have a significant impact on the outcome of elections to come. That's just the way it is. Here's the thing. Joe Biden continues, after all of that, to defend the Israelis and debunk the idea the IDF attacked a hospital at all. Here he is again.
But the point is this, that I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we've got to overcome a lot of things.
They're done by the other team. The other team being cold-blooded killers. We'll get back to that as we continue to sort out the day's events. More on Jim Jordan coming up as well, as he apparently is going to try for a third vote. I don't know that it makes any difference at this point. Right now, the Republicans look foolish in the eyes of many. I'll be back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Good to have you here midweek.